Hey there, entrepreneurs. My name is Sushant, and welcome to TrepTalks. This is the show where I interview successful e-commerce entrepreneurs, business executives, and thought leaders, and ask them questions about their business stories, and also dive deep into some of the strategies and tactics that they have used to start and grow their businesses. And today, I'm really excited to welcome Nathan Rothstein to the show. Nathan is the founder of Project Repat. Project Repat is a US-based company that transforms customers' memorable t-shirts into personalized, high-quality t-shirt quilts. And today I'm going to ask Nathan a few questions about his entrepreneur journey and some of the strategies and tactics that he has used to start and grow his business. Now, before we dive into this interview, if you enjoy this content, please make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. And for more interviews like this, please visit treptalks.com. And with that, Nathan, welcome and thank you so much for joining me today at Trep Talks. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So this is a very unique business idea. Um, when did you start this business, and what kind of motivated you to repurpose people's t-shirts into quilts? It's like I wouldn't even make that connection.
I think we started in 2012 and we were interested in what people had in their closets that for some reason they were not wearing but didn't want to get rid of. And so even back then, the storage industry was one of the fastest growing industries in the United States. And there were just millions and millions of pounds of clothing that sat in people's closets. And then when people decided to donate them, they ended up being baled and shipped overseas. And most of those shirts were actually made overseas and not the greatest working conditions. And so there was this huge import export problem, and the value of clothes. People had these nostalgic value attached to clothes without very much resale value. And so we just started thinking about what we could turn old clothes into. And through a series of lessons learned from customers, we figured out what they wanted was affordable way to turn shirts into a blanket like quilt.
Yeah, and I recently was watching a YouTube video because I'm looking at like different business ideas and so forth. And there was this video that was talking about how there is a huge opportunity in the, printed t-shirt industry because even though you would think that there's so many players, everybody's creating new t-shirts, but people wear t-shirts every single day and they want new prints and new designs on t-shirt. So it seems like that, there is a constant production of new t-shirts being created and people obviously, they wear it for a certain time, then they want something new. So there has to be a way to take care of all these um, old t-shirts or rarely worn t-shirts and so forth. Um, so I mean, this is a one way to, I think, take, utilize it or recycle it, I guess. Um, when you started this business, like, did you start with the idea of sustainability? Did you think that I want to create a business based on sustainability, recycling some of these old items, or, that just came as an I guess, afterthought?
I think it was definitely part of it. I mean, it was really a problem that we wanted to solve. It takes a lot of water to manufacture just one shirt. I think it's about 700 gallons of water, and a lot of it's because of the transportation costs, but um, there's a lot of there's a big environmental impact for the kind of dyes and colors that people use for shirts. So one t-shirt takes 700 gallons of water. And so we knew that fact, and we my business partner Ross had seen the resale market in East African countries where so much of the old t-shirts in the US wind up there. And the global economy of a shirt was interesting to us. And I think we were also interested in the economic impact of textile jobs in the US. And so many of those jobs had been lost over the last 30 years. And so we were looking, well, how do we turn excess clothing into US textile job opportunities? Um, and yeah, we those were things we were thinking about, but we knew we needed to find something that people actually wanted to pay for. Um, and so it took some figuring out what exactly that was. But we would stand at local markets actually in the Boston area, and people would start asking us to turn their shirts into quilts, and we said no a bunch of times because we wanted to make these cool tote bags and scarves and interesting, like fashion forward items, stuff that you might see on Etsy now. We were just trying out lots of stuff. And then people kept saying, "Can you turn my shirts into a quilt?" And we were two guys who were trying to like have an interesting startup, and it's just not something that we've been thinking about. But enough people asked, and we weren't really making an impact any other way. And so we just tried to figure that out, and that apparently was what the market wanted.
Wow, and that's I think that's the best way to find your business idea, right? When the market is asking you for something, then I think
Yeah.
that's the direction to move into. Um, so why a quilt? Why I mean, what's the attraction towards the quilt? And is there like when you have these t-shirts come to you, are you looking for like a certain, at least it meets certain like criteria, like these t-shirts have certain life in them, like they're not completely old t-shirt. Like why quilts, and how do you kind of ensure the quality assurance process of this?
Yeah, so the value and I think the way that we're successful is we're making we're making the products one of one um, for the customer. So you send us your shirts, we send it back to you as a quilt. And so we don't really care what's on the shirts. We don't care what they look like as long as you want to pay us to preserve those shirts, we're going to do it. And that's kind of the sweet spot where it's a real utility product because we're solving a problem that people have in their household. They're looking for unique gifts and ways to clear out space, and we're solving a problem for that. Um, so I feel like I don't have to figure out what's trendy, what's the next thing around the corner or what we're missing. It's just, can we provide this service in a scalable way? And that really hadn't been done before. So, but yeah, that's been our innovation.
And you don't basically buy bulk t-shirts, just a third, from some third party and make it into quilts and sell it to other people, because that's not a market out there. People are really having this made because of sentimental reasons.
Yeah, I think maybe in the future there's other opportunities, but um, what's nice is we don't really have any licensing issues because we're basically like an alterations business. We're like your dry cleaning business. You bring in a shirt, maybe there's a button that is missing, so they add a button and they clean it and they send it back and they give it back to you. But that's what we're doing. We're cutting the shirts into a square and sewing them all together. And I think a lot of people for many years had a person in their life who may have been a great sewer and could do something like this on their own. But the skill of sewing has definitely decreased over the last 25 years. Like less people are proficient in it. And so, yeah, it's another market opportunity that set us up for success.
So it's basically a service business in a way. How
Yes. Yeah.
how big is the market for this? Because I would think like even with this innovation and the service that you're providing, I mean, how do you, I mean, as I said before, like I wouldn't, personally, I wouldn't even have thought about this. Do you have to educate people? Do
Yeah.
people find you somehow? How do you, like, how big is the market?
Yeah. So I think what's interesting is like for the last decade, there's about 20 to 30,000 monthly searches for this product on Google. So that exists, and that's relatively small, but it, that leads to about 1,000 to 1,500 orders a month just from capturing most of the Google search market. But the real opportunity for us has been showing an ad in the Meta feed and people seeing this concept and signing up for it and saying, "Oh, this looks interesting to me because I have too many shirts or my kid is graduating from college or high school and I'm looking for a unique gift." And that's the way we've been able to grow the business. So I would say, yeah, I'd say the market is pretty big considering that there's about 2 billion shirts printed in the US every year. And so, if we can, right now we capture about like 2 to 3 million of those shirts every year. So it's a it's a very small percentage of the market that we're seeing. And so I still think 13 years in that there's still a bigger opportunity out there. And we're now in 8 figures business. And so,
Wow, eight
uh,
figures. That's pretty large.
yeah. And I think it can be bigger, but yeah, but I think we're kind of, no one really sees this as like a big opportunity. So I think that's kind of been been an advantage for us too, because you don't have someone coming in and saying, "I'm going to raise, $30 million to build this gigantic quilt business." And so we've had some competitors come in and try to compete, but just no one has tried to like put a ton of capital into blowing up the market. So it's allowed us to um, continue to grow over the years.
And that should be a lesson for anybody, and I think business schools should showcase this, that people don't have to go out and start the next Facebook or Google. Like some ideas, like other ideas, it's like this business is making eight figures as it is, which is a difficult number to achieve for a lot of businesses, right? Um, I mean, from the consumer psychology, do people just don't like to get rid of their old items? Like, what is the psychology behind this? Because, people who have like a lot of t-shirts, old items, um, rather than basically donating it to like a local Salvation Army or something, like
Yeah, it's
they
it's a
still they
yeah, it's a
still want
very
to keep
I
it.
think it's a yeah. I mean I think a lot of people still end up donating like Goodwill or Salvation Army. They have more than they can handle, but they can't. I think what most people don't know is that those places can't resell 99% of the t-shirts that they receive. So there's no real secondhand market. And the way that Goodwill's like makes money is by selling clothing either at retail or per pound in bales that they're baling up. So it's a it's a quantity thing, but the the quality of the stuff that they're seeing for shirts is not that high. And so the most value that a shirt has usually is the nostalgic attachment to it. People like I'm wearing the a t-shirt from where I went to college, and like people have a ton of t-shirts from where they went to school. And if you basically in America, if you've left your house in the last 30 years, you've acquired a ton of shirts. And so they're all, they have interesting designs, and people just like the concept of seeing them all in one place. And usually I don't have to talk this much to convince someone why it's a good idea. That's that's what I
No, I
love about
can.
this business is like I I I know I appreciate your questions, and I think they're all valid, but it's the fun part of this business is that I can just show the product and people are like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense to me." This isn't like I'm going to pay money. I'm going to swipe my credit card and pay money. Um, so yeah, that's why I've been doing this for a while.
No, as you're explaining it, and I'm thinking about my own old T-shirts, I can now see the value where, if I'm picturing a quilt made of my old T-shirts, I can see that, you know, it's almost like going down the memory lane. It's almost like having photographs, right? You can,
Yeah,
look at a T-shirt and you're like, yes, I was there at this time. So it's like it's memories. So
yeah.
definitely makes a lot of sense. In terms of the production itself, like if you're getting 1,000, 1,500 orders every single month, like this must be a pretty big production to be creating these skills. Can you talk a little bit about, does it occur like in a big um, warehouse space? How many people are there sewing these quilts? How long does it take to create one quilt and so forth?
Yeah, so we have this great partner in North Carolina. It's a worker-owned cut and sew company called Opportunity Threads, and we've worked together to build basically a factory line for a super custom product like this. So there's a bunch of stations, and the shirts kind of go through the process of being cut and sewn and serged together and then shipped out all in one place. Um, so there's about 50 to 60 people doing this every day. Um, yeah, and it's one of those jobs too that can't really be sent abroad because people are someone in the US is shipping the shirts to us and then we're shipping it back to them. So the more expensive labor costs um, out outweigh or trump the all of the shipping costs if you were going to send us to someplace in the Far East. It just wouldn't make sense to do it this way. So those are the textile jobs that really thrive in the US, and we're able to meet that.
No, that's quite great. Um, in terms of the initial setup of this, like how did what was kind of the monetary outlay upfront? I mean, you started quite a long ago, so I think you've probably grown organically over the last 10, 13 years or so. Can you talk through like what was kind of the progression? Where did you start and how did you grow over time?
Yeah, I mean early on it was almost at the peak of Groupon and Living Social, which were these huge group buying businesses. I mean, I think Groupon was one of the fastest growing companies ever. In the United States, it just took off, and they actually featured early on before we really had our production in place, and they put us into a national email that I think went out to 15 to 20 million people.
Wow.
And we sold 2,000 quilts in a week, and then had to figure out how to make all of them. And so yeah, I think our that was really lucky. I mean, I think it's much now with Shopify as well established, it's easier than ever to start selling on the internet. I think it's harder than ever to build a thriving big business just because it, it, if a tree falls into the forest and no one's around, like, did anyone see that tree? And I think there's just so many companies starting where you just can't get off the ground because you just can't reach enough people for the amount of money that you have. Like your runway is just much shorter. So I think we got lucky to be in the right place at the right time. And I think there have been some people who had tried to build this business, and there were some existing players who just couldn't scale it. Um, Not really to any fault of their own. It was just we did some good networking and got lucky, and then like good entrepreneurs, we figured out how to solve the problems better than others. I think that was our success.
So you don't right now. I mean, it seems like you've had competitors, but they haven't just succeeded as much as you. But right now, do you have any like stable competitors who are, giving you more competition?
Yeah, we have some people, I think what's a little frustrating about the competition is that they're all people who kind of knew the inner workings in some ways of our business. Like, uh, yeah, I mean, without getting too much into it, it's like they had an inside window into our business in a way that other businesses in other sectors may not have. So, but it's this is the world that we live in. It's like people are going to constantly try um, different stuff, and it feels kind of good that like people know every single facet of our business and still can't really compete. Um, So in a lot of ways, we've built a pretty defensible business.
Yeah, and that's I mean, I think that's the big challenge right now in general these days is it's easy to start a business, but number one, it's difficult to get traction. And number two, if you do get the traction and become successful, then, everybody else, whether you're, someone in China or, someone sees your success and then tries to go after it. So, I mean,
Yeah.
now the barrier to entry has gone down, but to 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 uh, to come out of the crowd, I think that's the big challenge. Do you do? I mean, you said that you do advertise on Facebook, and that's a big driver of customers. I mean, do you still see success in Facebook advertising? Because what I hear that even the ROI in that has become very challenging.
Yeah, I mean, it still works for us. I mean, I think there was a period of years where it worked like gangbusters, and it worked really well for everyone else too. I think we're doing a little bit different kind of advertising than most D2C companies, where everyone's building um, purchase campaigns and just spending money to see immediate ROAS, return on ad spend. So, and we have the freedom a little bit to use cash that we've gotten up front and not have to pay for production right away. And so we can roll that cash into growing our ad spend. Um, and so we're driving traffic, getting leads, and not worrying too much about whether those leads convert right away over time. So that's been that's been a great method to help us grow. And we've borrowed some cash as well, like to to grow as well, and any dollars that we can scrounge up, we're putting into Meta to keep this growing. and
Do you all,
we've just yeah.
what about, I mean, what about partnerships? To me, it seems like a good crowd to target here is probably someone who's graduated from college universities, 10 years down the road. So maybe the alumni departments of colleges and universities. Have you, because they keep in touch with their own, like you know, every periodically they send out emails with different offers and things like this. Have you tried partnering with any of those organizations or other sorts of partnerships?
Yeah, honestly, we've tried lots of, I think it's a good idea, and we've definitely tried that. We just haven't had really much success figuring out the right partner revenue split. Um, I think, it's an uphill battle convincing people that there's there's potential to partner. It's a new concept to partner. Um, and where we succeed is really e-commerce and conversions and tracking, and where we haven't succeeded is on all those partnerships. And I've spent a lot of time um, cold emailing, partnering, networking, and even when we get someone willing to try this out, it's tough to figure out the tech to like help see the ROI for everyone. So yeah, I think in the future, my dream is that every college gives their students like an upcycle budget. So, there's a budget now for new t-shirts. Um, and I think at some point, like, could there be a budget for recycling your shirts, basically, and responsibly recycling? And so what keeps me going is the vision that this can be much more ingrained into American society as what to do with the end of life of your shirts. But uh, I think that just takes time and patience, which I have some patience, but not a ton.
I mean, you've stuck with it for 13 years. I mean, that definitely shows a lot of patience.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so, I mean, when you look back when you started and where you are now, like, has there been what has been some of the pivotal moments in your business? I mean, they could be related to like marketing success, or they could also be related to challenges like, I don't know, during COVID, like did your sales go up during COVID, or any other thing, like, what stands out for you, like, because you have a long history.
Yeah, I think I'm aware of the the timing of our business. Like I said, the Groupon was super helpful. We also benefited from the emergence of Facebook as an ad platform. I mean, we've been doing this for so long that you literally could not spend money on Meta unless you spoke with someone and worked out a partnership through email, like a sponsored display ad. Like that's how old our business is. So, we were able to just kind of slowly test out the ad platform as it developed as well. And the mobile advertising really and Instagram really changed things for us. So, uh, that was a super helpful thing. I think, um, one of the bigger challenges was dealing with the being collateral damage in the Mark Zuckerberg, Apple privacy war, where Apple basically turned off the tracking for Meta, and that really blew up our business model. And it's really just how reliant we are on Meta, uh, and have not really been able to figure out anything else. But so that was a big challenge. The COVID when COVID hit, it was unclear what was going to happen to our business, but we actually started making masks. And so the factory was able to stay open. And you know, I had spent a lot of time on Twitter back then just seeing what was happening in China and just being paranoid and anxious and we prepared mask um, preparations basically 2 weeks before everyone else did. So we sold like 100,000 masks in like 14 days.
Wow.
And then, and then everyone made a mask. And so it wasn't really a thing anymore, but that really helped us. And then everyone was at home looking through their closets and just had a lot of time on their hands. So our business actually, uh, we did a lot of business, but would I have wished for that to have never happened? Yes. So, it's, just being a parent of young kids and living in this world, like it was horrible. So, but yeah, we've had quite the roller coaster journey, like everyone else who's been in business this long.
Who does your, are you, I mean, are you the resident Facebook ads expert, or like, is that something that's outsourced? Who's basically responsible for your advertising?
Yeah, we work with someone who has a small boutique uh, agency who is running growth marketing advertising for a few different companies, and I feel like I know the platform well. I understand what it's doing, and I ran those ads for a while. But it's nice to have somebody who's very confident in making changes and recommending different things. And but I definitely understand it. I think that's like a good lesson for Shopify founders and people with small teams that if you're going to hire someone to do something, make sure you understand a lot of it as much as you can. So I did a lot of research. I read a lot about Meta, and I mean, I'm constantly looking at best practices and suggesting things to our consultant, but I'm not the one pulling the levers anymore.
I think that's probably, yeah, that's a great advice, right? Like, um, to have an understanding of things, a good understanding of things, and then you can you can give the directions and you can see the results, and and so you know that you're not getting fooled, just, you're not blindly trusting someone. So I think that's a great advice. Um,
Yeah, I think there's a lot of snake oil in the advertising world of like just the way that the business is set up to of taking a percentage of spend. Uh, I mean, that's a model based off programmatic television and having to like call up every TV channel and spending money and that model has kind of transferred over into meta spend, but it shouldn't be like that. I mean, uh, yeah, I think there's just problems with how agencies run it. And yeah, but I think we have someone who's really good, and I think she has a good business model around it.
awesome. Um, so you partner with a company that basically does the sewing. You have your marketing. What other? I mean, it seems to me that after 13 years, your business is quite systematized. Are you? Is it pretty much hands off now? What is what does your day look like in terms of, what do you think about on a day-to-day basis about your business?
Yeah, I think it's I think it's trying new things and seeing what works better, and it's now incremental changes. I we now have um, a tech person on staff who he was a consultant for us who built a lot of our operations tech, and we brought him on full time to basically just test constantly to see if we can make improvements and to try new ideas. This year we built an AI search tool. So we're now taking photographs of every quilt when they're done, and then the AI can tag it. So, I can you can go on the website and search everything you just search Boston, and anything with Boston on it will show up. Um, but it can also work for, oh, someone wants to see button-down shirts, like how that looks on a blanket, or hockey jerseys. Um, so I think it's helpful for a customer to be able to search and see many examples. So that's a project that we've built in the last 3 months using a lot of AI, and I can't say exactly what the ROI is on that project, but I think it has benefited a lot of people, and we're going to keep figuring out how to use it better. So stuff like that. I mean, just it's not as sexy as like going to pitch at a meeting or traveling around the country and figuring stuff out. It's sitting in spreadsheets and making small iterations.
Do you ever think about like, do you get new ideas around sustainability or like similar kind of things? Like, are you ever, I don't know if you're the single founder of your partners also, but are you ever inclined to kind of diversify, like try out other ideas also?
Yeah, I think we've tried lots of stuff, and nothing really has caught on in the same way as the blanket. And so it's really been about, what can we do to support that, and what are other ways we can make money. We have embroidery machines now. We have photo printing machines, so people can upload a photo and we can print it on a blanket. Um, we actually now have socks made from the scraps. Like the scraps can be turned into yarn, and then we spin the yarn into socks. So we're constant, like, you wake up every day as an entrepreneur and think about, well, what things can I do to grow the business? And so that has kept us growing. Um, and also, how do we make more money? So yeah, that has been an interesting part, and it's nice to have my tech person sitting next to me who we can try things out quickly and figure out what's working and what's not.
I mean, your business relies heavily on, I guess, shipping. So there's two parts of it. You receive the packages, then you have to ship it out. Do you work with some sort of a shipping provider that helps you to streamline that process, give your customers better shipping rates and so forth?
Yeah, so we built basically our own shipping platform, and we've used FedEx and USPS over the years, and we've been able to negotiate rates and figure out how to make more margin around shipping as well. So yeah, that's been another profit engine for us.
Wow, that's very interesting. Okay. I think a lot of platforms are doing that now
Yeah.
that have
Yeah.
shipping volume. Okay. Is your market currently mostly in the US? Are you also doing some international orders?
Yeah, we're we're almost 100% US. I think to expand, we really need to figure out how to get a facility in a different country and offer this service in other countries. So you I think another kind of entrepreneur would have done that. I had a talk recently with this entrepreneur who had ended up selling his company to a much bigger tech company, and it was just a really interesting way of framing this for entrepreneurs. Like, are you a are you a Hall of Fame entrepreneur? Are you an all-star entrepreneur, or are you just kind of like a professional entrepreneur but in the minor leagues? And and I think kind of looking in the mirror and just trying to and figuring out like exactly what kind of entrepreneur you are. Like, there's the Mark Zuckerbergs in the world who are Hall of Fame entrepreneurs. Like, they've built this they've built this gigantic company. They've stayed the CEO. Like, that's not who I am. Um, and once you kind of get comfortable with what kind of entrepreneur you are, you can be more content in the success that you have. So I kind of know that I'm like I'm a middle of the road journeyman entrepreneur. And yeah, I've made the major leagues, but have I been back in the minor leagues too? Yeah. So I think I think just like knowing that about yourself, like I don't have aspirations to turn this into a $1 billion company. Um, so I know some people who are like that, but that's not me.
That's such a great distinction. Do you think, and I agree, your distinction of major league and all star and so forth. Um, I think there are some entrepreneurs that really think big and like the big visionaries, but I think in I would assume that some of these big successes, like they were just not just the entrepreneur, but they were caught in the perfect storm. It was the right circumstances, some luck. Um, I mean, do you believe that there is some, I don't think it's always 100% entrepreneur. I think it's a combination of factors that make like a really huge success.
Yeah, and I think it's the drive too of and the radical optimism you have to be able to go to investors and say, like, this idea that is nothing now is can be $1 billion concept, and give me write checks for 1 million, 5 million, 10, 20 million. Like, but that is such a small sector of at least the US economy. And I think what's interesting is Shopify is so big. There's 2.5 million stores, but I think there's only 2,000 stores that are doing more than $10 million a year. And so, the fact that we're in that um, puts us in a pretty small group. So, um, but I think we've tried to raise money over the years and have not succeeded. And I think now I'm kind of grateful that that didn't really work out because it's it's a small, lean team. We get to figure stuff out, and I don't have a ton of investors like breathing down my neck saying, you need to do this to like and to make this bigger.
Yeah. No, yeah, there's definitely pros and cons for sure. And I think some people are just, they just need to go to that next level. It's like they're highly driven. So I think that's a different kind of an entrepreneur. In every entrepreneur journey, there's always mistakes made, lessons learned, failures. When you look at your journey, what comes to your mind like a big mistake or failure? What did you learn? What can other entrepreneurs learn from your mistakes?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that comes to mind is um, we in 2018, 2017, a lot of direct to consumer businesses were opening retail stores. Um, and we thought, oh, well, maybe if we open a store, more people will trust us. And let's open it in a suburban town where our ideal customer is. Um, and so we opened a store and we had a lot of fun building it out and painting it and retiling it and designing it in this cool way. Um, but I remember like the first day when people walked in, they walked in and they started saying, okay, they brought out their shirts and they started saying, I want this here and I want that here. And we had created a quilt shop, like a little mom and pop quilt shop. And it was, honestly, it was like the last thing that we had wanted for our lifestyle business, where what we had succeeded on is like removing all the bells and whistles and being very transparent about what we can do and what we can't do, and giving customers clear instructions for how to prepare their shirts. And the concept of walking into a store and laying out all your shirts was just not what we wanted to do and didn't increase our sales at all. So it was like following a trend, not really thinking through like what it actually meant for our business. And that, it was like $100,000 mistake. And you try to, like, that's like the max that you want to, for us, like that you want to, that's the dollar amount that you want to make a mistake about. And now it's funny, on Google, if you search Project Repat Boston, you'll see the address of our store and it will stay permanently closed. Um,
How
and
quickly
somehow
did you close it?
we closed it about like 7 months after it opened. So this was 7 years ago now, but somehow some customers who don't read the instructions still send their shirts there, even though it says permanently closed on Google. But it was funny, like it's now a gym, and the gym owner emailed us and was like, "Can you please tell your customers to not send shirts to me?" And we can, what I've learned is like we can build instructions where 95% of people follow it, which is really good, but you cannot do things that's 100%. So wherever our address is on the internet, even old places, like people are just gonna not read anything and send stuff. But we've done a pretty good job of making it work for most people.
No, that's so hilarious. Yeah, it's like it created more hassles for you than generating revenue. Now I'm
Yes.
going to move on to our rapid fire segment. In this segment, I'm going to ask you a few quick questions, and you have to answer them maybe in a word or a sentence or so. The first one is one book recommendation for entrepreneurs and why.
Looking at my um see. I mean, I think the the Stephen Levy book about Facebook is just like a really interesting story about that business and how it's grown over the years. And there's just, if you spend time in this world, it's just like a very interesting inside window into it.
Awesome. An innovative product or idea in the current e-commerce, retail, or tech landscape that you feel excited about.
I'm I like our we use Gorgeous for customer service, and they built some really interesting AI components that I've gone in there and spent a lot of time working with and building these AI chatbots that are super helpful, and customers are able to get the answers to their questions right away. And so that's pretty cool. And to see that develop over time is awesome.
Awesome. Um, a business or productivity tool or software that you would recommend, or a productivity tip? I know you already recommended one, but anything around productivity?
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of people are doing this, but using the chatbots GPT to start your day with whatever you're thinking of developing or marketing concepts to work it through the engine and get inspired from. That's been super helpful for me.
Yeah. Another startup or business that you think is currently doing great things?
I've been following this brand for a while, and we have it in our house. It's called Oat House. Um, it's like a granola nut-free um, mix, and my kids love it, and I love it, and it's just been interesting to follow their journey. Um, they're now in Target and Costco, and they just started a few years ago, but it's been fun to see, and their marketing is great, and they have a great product.
Awesome. A peer entrepreneur or business person whom you look up to, or someone who inspires you?
Uh, there's there's a peer that runs Vienna snacks. They're like a chickpea snack, and she started right around the same time as we did, and they've just grown into like a national company, and it's just been really interesting to follow. And they're more a consumer good, get wholesale business, but their branding is really good, and I've learned a lot from how they've grown their business as well.
Awesome.
So I've given you two food. I guess I'm hungry. I've given you two food businesses.
Well, I'll end it quickly. So, final question: best business advice that you have ever received, or you would give to other entrepreneurs?
I would say it was don't um, don't get attached to an idea that doesn't work. And I think that's really what's allowed us to succeed, is that if something's failing, you just have to stop, and move on to the next, no matter if it's your idea or somebody else's. And it's a good way to work. I've been working with my business partner for 13 years, and the way we're able to do that is because we don't have allegiances to bad ideas. And that's been good team building and good success for our business as well.
Do you have any criteria for, like, is it a revenue figure that you look at? Is it like time? How do you decide when to kill an idea?
Yeah, I think if it's revenue, it's conversions, it's what customers are saying. Because we get so much web traffic now, we can try something out, see if the average order value, see if the conversion rate is going up, and we know pretty quickly whether something works or not. So we fail a lot. Like we swing but we keep swinging the bat, which is what's kept us in business.
Awesome. No, great, great advice. Well, Nathan, those were all the questions that I had. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for sharing your story, your business lessons. Quite inspiring. And if somebody wants to take advantage of your service, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, go to projectrepat.com, and you can also see a lot of examples on Instagram. Project Repat USA is our handle.
Awesome. Well, Nathan, thank you so much again and wish you all the very best. Thank you so
All
much.
right, thanks so much.